As I recount this harrowing experience, I can't help but shiver at the thought of that ill-fated Tinder encounter. In the era of digital connections, where swipes and matches held the promise of romance, I found myself entangled in a nightmare that forever altered my perspective on online dating. One fateful night, my curiosity led me to swipe right on a man named John. His profile exuded charisma, with photos displaying a captivating smile and a bio filled with clever humor that drew me in. Our online conversations flowed effortlessly, and it wasn't long before I felt a connection that transcended the digital world. Little did I know that beneath John's charming facade, a sinister plan was unfolding. He proposed a first date that was far from ordinary, an encounter at a remote, abandoned cabin deep within the foreboding woods. I hesitated, my instincts whispering warnings, but the allure of a unique adventure proved irresistible, and I reluctantly agreed. Arriving at the cabin on a moonless night, dread hung heavy in the air. The cabin was nestled far from civilization, and its isolation sent shivers down my spine. The darkness seemed to swallow me whole, and I questioned my decision to embark on this enigmatic journey. Stepping through the cabin's threshold, I was met with a scene that intensified my unease. The interior was adorned with unsettling relics, and the walls bore cryptic symbols that appeared to writhe in the flickering candlelight, as though they held dark secrets and ancient rituals. John's demeanor underwent a disconcerting transformation. The charm that had drawn me in was replaced by something far more menacing. He confessed his true intentions, revealing a sinister ritual that filled me with a chilling fear. Panic surged as I realized the perilous trap I had walked into. I was isolated in the woods with a stranger who harbored sinister motives, and I was disconnected from the safety of the outside world. Desperation took hold as I grappled with the gravity of my situation. I reached for my phone, hoping to call for help, but my hopes were quickly dashed. There was no signal, and the cabin's isolation severed my connection to the outside world. I was alone, deep in the woods, with no way to reach anyone. As John advanced with menacing intentions, I had no choice but to flee deeper into the cabin, desperately searching for an escape. The cabin seemed to defy logic, with its layout shifting and morphing, hidden passages appearing as if they were gateways to a nightmarish labyrinth. I felt ensnared in a sinister maze, my breath quick and shallow, with time running out. My only chance of survival lay in finding a way out before it was too late. In my frantic quest for escape, I stumbled upon a hidden chamber within the cabin. The room was filled with an unsettling assortment of ancient mystical artifacts, each radiating an otherworldly power. Amid the artifacts, I discovered a mysterious amulet, its surface etched with enigmatic runes and symbols that pulsed with an eerie energy. With trembling hands, I grasped the amulet, and an overwhelming surge of power coursed through me. The amulet repelled the malevolent forces that had ensnared me, creating a protective barrier that kept John at bay. The cabin fell into a chilling silence, and I seized the opportunity to flee, clutching the amulet that had become my lifeline. I deleted my Tinder app, vowing never to trust a digital profile again, for it had led me into a perilous game where the stakes were my very life. As I retreated from the accursed cabin in the woods, the haunting memories of that ill-fated Tinder encounter would forever haunt me. It served as a stark reminder that the digital world could lead to horrors beyond imagination, and the line between connection and catastrophe was a treacherous one. In the heart of the picturesque town of Amityville, the house stood like an ancient sentinel, its ominous presence casting an unshakable shadow over the neighborhood. The Dutch colonial structure had been a silent witness to a macabre history that defied all reason. A history that began with the horrifying events of a night etched in blood, the night Ronald DeFeo Jr. unleashed unimaginable violence, brutally taking the lives of his entire family. Years passed, but the dark cloud that had settled over the house never lifted. It remained vacant, a brooding monument to tragedy, its windows like cold, unblinking eyes that seemed to warn all who gazed upon it. The stories that whispered through the town were tales of malevolence, of strange occurrences, and the lingering aura of death. Yet, for the Lutz family, driven by a mixture of hope, desperation, and ignorance, the house represented an opportunity for a fresh start. George and Kathy Lutz, along with their 3 young children, saw potential where others had seen only despair. The house, despite its grim history, seemed like a chance to give their family a new beginning. Their excitement was palpable as they moved in, ready to write their own chapter in the house's dark history. But their excitement turned to terror as the sun dipped below the horizon on their very first night. An eerie symphony of strange sounds enveloped the house. Whispers like sinister echoes from the past seemed to seep from the very walls. Unseen footsteps echoed on creaky floors, doors slammed shut with a mind of their own. The children's laughter morphed into fearful sobs, and Missy, the youngest, introduced her sinister friend, Jody, a red-eyed pig that whispered unsettling secrets to her in the dead of night. Daylight offered no respite from the horrors. Cold spots materialized out of thin air, and the stench of decay hung heavy in the air. The feeling of being watched became an inescapable presence, a silent, judgmental gaze that seemed to follow them from room to room. The Lutz family was caught in a waking nightmare. As the days turned into weeks, the terror only intensified. George, who had been the very picture of strength, found himself transformed into a haunted figure. A palpable darkness veiled his eyes, his voice carried an ominous weight, and he was consumed by a malevolent rage. Night after night, he awoke at precisely 3:15 a.m., the very hour when the DeFeo murders had unfolded. Kathy's health deteriorated at an alarming rate, her vitality sapped by an invisible force that seemed to feed on her very essence. The children, under the relentless influence of the sinister atmosphere, displayed erratic and bizarre behaviors, as if puppets manipulated by an unseen hand. Desperation reached its breaking point. The Lutz family, in a desperate bid to find salvation, turned to a local priest, Father Delaney, who ventured into the house to perform an exorcism. But even his unwavering faith couldn't shield him from the malevolence that dwelled within. As he recited the sacred prayers, he was violently cast out, his faith left shattered. With each passing night, the house's malevolence seemed to grow stronger. Ghastly apparitions haunted every corner, and unseen forces played tormentor with their sanity. The Lutz family could bear it no longer. Fueled by sheer dread, they made a harrowing decision. In the dead of night, after only 28 days of their residence, they fled the house, leaving behind their possessions, their dreams, and their very sanity. The Amityville horror had claimed yet another set of victims, its malevolence etched even deeper into the very essence of the house. The Lutz family's terrifying tale of unspeakable horror and their frantic escape became a global legend, a stark reminder that sometimes the darkest of histories clings to the living, and some houses are best left to rot in the shadows of the past. It all began in my hometown, Hollow Halloween, where every corner seemed to embrace the eerie enchantment of the season. But beneath the charming facade of cobweb-covered porches and carved pumpkins, a malevolent secret lay dormant. Deep in the woods that bordered our town, there was an ancient, dilapidated shack, a place whispered about by townsfolk in hushed tones. It was said to be the dwelling of an eccentric woman named Eudora Blackwood, who, in her eccentricity, had dabbled in the dark arts. Eudora was known for her peculiar fascination with Halloween and her creations of unsettling masks and effigies. One chilling October night, I found myself inexplicably drawn to the shack, as if an otherworldly force guided me there. The air grew colder and denser as I approached, and the shack's door creaked open as if it had a mind of its own. Inside, I discovered an array of masks and oddities, the very essence of Halloween's darkest aspects. Among these macabre treasures, I came upon a mask, a creation so bizarre and grotesque that it seemed to call to me with an irresistible, eerie charm. It was Eudora's masterpiece, and its malevolent allure was undeniable. I felt compelled to put it on, and the moment I did, I felt a shift in the very air around me. This mask, as I would later learn, was cursed, imbued with a vengeful spirit that had been bound to it by Eudora herself. It was said that Eudora's obsession with Halloween had led her to make a pact with the spirits of the underworld, and the mask was a vessel for their dark energy. Under the mask's influence, I found myself possessed by an insatiable need for revenge against those who had wronged me in the past. It was as if the vengeful spirits from the underworld had awakened within me, and their thirst for retribution was unquenchable. My actions during that Halloween night became a harrowing descent into darkness. I carried out acts of vengeance on those I believed had crossed me, but the malevolent energy of the mask only intensified. The town descended into chaos as my vengeful spree continued, and the fear that gripped the townsfolk was palpable. Desperate to stop the madness, a group of courageous residents of Hollow Halloween came together, determined to confront the malevolent force that had taken over my being. They sought to remove the mask and break its curse, but the struggle was far from easy. The mask fought back with a supernatural fury that defied the laws of the living. It was as though the vengeful spirits themselves were protecting their vessel, and the shack itself seemed to come alive with a malevolent intent. In the end, through a collective effort, the mask was forcibly removed from my face, and I was freed from its sinister grip. The energy of the vengeful spirits was sealed away, and I was left traumatized, forever marked by the horrors I had committed. The legend of the vengeful mask of Hollow Halloween lived on, serving as a haunting reminder that some obsessions can lead to malevolent pacts, and that some curses are better left undisturbed. The shack in the woods, now sealed and untouched, stood as a grim testament to the malevolence that lurked beneath the surface of the charming town of Hollow Halloween, a reminder that not all masks are meant to be worn, especially when they hide the vengeful spirits of the underworld.